Hello and welcome to Nick's Allotment Diary.
Thought you might like a little tour of the plot in autumn. So the sunflowers I've finished well and truly now. I've cut the heads off, the majority of them. Have left some heads on for the birds to eat the seeds. And as you can see, the leaves are starting to die back now, so I'll be chopping these up and putting them in the compost heap. Also the beans are finished now. I've left some beans on the canes here just to produce a few seeds, but I don't need too many seeds, to be honest, because I only have a few plants each year that I grow. Now to the Crimson Crush tomatoes. These are still producing fruit even though we are very late in the season. Some of them are going red, but I think I'm going to cut my losses and cut these back and take the tomatoes into the house so they can finish off ripening. Marigolds have done really well. They've flowered for the last few months. Produced quite a lot of seed heads. I'll show you some examples there. So I'll just save some of those seeds for next year. Not quite sure what these are. These self-seeded. They look to be sort of like some sort of Chinese greens, possibly. Thought at first they were radish, but I don't think they are. Calendula are still flowering even though it's late in the season. I'll cut those back soon. They've self-seeded everywhere as usual, so I should get a decent amount of flowers again next year. The squash bed has died back now. The colder weather we've had has seen off the plants basically. There's a few yellow courgettes left. My solitary pumpkin that I've managed to produce this year. This is the Cinderella pumpkin. I shall have that for Halloween. And my solitary squash. This is the Urchikuri squash. I think I know where I went wrong this year with the squash. Two things really. They went in too late, and also they had to compete with the sunflowers in this bed. And I think the sunflowers are very greedy feeders, so they will have taken a lot of the nutrients from the soil. Over the winter this year I'll put manure on this bed to feed it back up again, so that I'll be able to use it properly again next year. In this bed the sweet corn is well and truly finished. The plants have died back, so they need pulling out now, and I can prepare this bed then for winter. The rainbow chard has done really well in this bed over here. You can see there's 4 plants, and also I've managed to get a couple of tomato plants in here. These were the Roma tomatoes, the plum tomatoes. I haven't had many off it, to be honest. That's one thing I'm going to have to learn for next year. Everything went out too late. Everything needs to go in a little bit earlier than it did this year. Although this year I was restricted by the very hot weather. I didn't want to plant some of the plants when it was very, very hot. So I think I need to get plants in the late spring next year, before the heat of the summer, if we do get a warm summer, of course, next year. One bed that is doing quite well is the Brassica bed. And you can see through the net there's a nice head of Calabrese broccoli. Also in this bed I have my sprout plants. Those are there. No sprouts on them as yet. Sprouts might be late this year, maybe. Possibly too late for Christmas. But I should get them in the early spring next year. Also I've got some kale here and some Savoy cabbages. So I'm pretty pleased with this bed. It didn't get devastated by caterpillars. Netting did its job. Over to the leeks. Excuse the weeds in this bed. There's a lot of weeds about this time of the year which I need to deal with over the winter. Leeks, they're not doing too bad. Decent sized ones. A couple of smaller ones there. They should do me over the winter. A few more of those to come. Right. Here are the buckets of potatoes. So I've taken the tops off these potatoes, but there are still quite a lot of tubers in the buckets. I'm going to save some of them for Christmas, but I will turn a few more buckets out over the next couple of weeks, and I'll do some potato reveals and let you know what yields I get. One bed that has done well this year is the herb bed. So there's all sorts of things. We've got lavender, rosemary, some lemon balm there, curry plant, sage. We've had chives, we've had oregano, basil. So everything's done pretty well. Also in this bed I've got some nasturtiums. They've just sort of self-seeded. Next to the herb bed we have the strawberry bed. I will be sorting this one out over the winter. That one does need to be weeded. There's too much bindweed. So I'm going to take the whole bed up, get the bindweed out, and then replant the bed. In the fruit cage, the fruit bushes are losing their leaves now, so you can see a little bit more what's here. So we have the lovely red leaves of the blueberry. There's another one there. We've got quite a few black currant bushes, red currant bushes, gooseberries, perpetual strawberries, and also the cherry tree that I grew. Don't know if you remember, early in the season I put this one in a pot. That's put on a lot of growth over this summer, so hopefully I'll get some cherries on it next year. Into the greenhouse, there are still plenty of tomatoes being produced on the tomato plants. We've got the purple indigo cherry tomatoes, and we've also got the sun gold tomatoes. So still quite a few tomatoes to harvest. I'll pick some of those today. Peppers, I've had quite a few peppers produced on the pepper plants. To be fair, I haven't looked after these plants as well as they could have done. So some of the peppers have shriveled a little bit. That was due to missing some watering later on in the season. Hopefully I should get a few more peppers on these plants, but I'll harvest the ones that have ripened. There's a few chilies on the chili plant, so those can be picked now. I don't feel that I've utilised the greenhouse to its full potential this year, so I'm going to make a better attempt at it for next year.
I hope you enjoyed that short tour around my allotment in the autumn. Thanks very much for joining me at Nick's Allotment. I'll see you again next time.